to be an overnight success, you have to work for like 10 years.
I like how you put that.
If anybody says that they never wanted to quit as a liar. And so you got to figure out how to balance it all, because it's like, why did I choose this? Why did I do this? And then when you do a show and somebody's like, oh my gosh, I cried. Oh my gosh, standing ovation. Oh, my students need to see this, or my sister, or I was expelled, or I was suspended. I was kicked out of school. I got pregnant. That's when it's worth it.
It's all worth it.
Listen to your small, still voice inside your body. Your intuition is always your guide. And also, too, that your health is your biggest wealth. If you focus on your health, that's going to help you do everything else. When Black women walk, things change.
What's up, everyone? You're watching the Insight Podcast. This is your host, Jonathan Arias. I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and allowing me and my guests to share all our wisdom and our knowledge with you. The whole reason why I started this whole platform is because I wanted to speak to really successful and inspirational people and find out exactly how they did it, with the purpose of giving you the blueprint so you can improve your life, so you can go on to that next step that you've always wanted to take. So let's get this thing started. In this episode, I got the amazing opportunity to sit down with a very good friend of mine, playwright, actress, all-around talented person, Lacresha Berry. I got her on the show because recently she's been working on a play called Tubman, which is a rendition of Harriet Tubman's story, but retold through the modern lens of a New York City public school teacher, right? So before Lacreasha started doing this, she was a teacher in New York City, and she started to realize how a lot of the black girls in school were being suspended more proportionally to any other student in the classroom. So realizing this issue and then also combining her experience in a playwright and in theater and in acting, she made a play about this. Now, what stood out to me the most in this play is her high energy. I mean, for a whole hour, Lacreasha keeps you captivated, on your seat, and she never loses a beat. So me, as an all-around fitness guy, loves to work out, I started to ask myself, how does she keep all that energy? And because it's got to be exhausting. So in this episode, she breaks down how she writes a play, how she came up with Tubman, how she keeps her energy so damn high. So you don't necessarily have to be a playwright to appreciate this episode, but we all want more energy. We all want to do things a lot better, more energized, and Lacreasha's the best person to speak about this. So amongst all those things, you're going to learn all those things, why she started her play, how she keeps her energy high, how you can become a playwright, how she gets into a role of a character, all these things. So make sure you sit down and enjoy this episode. If you're watching this on my website, theinsightpodcast.com, make sure to subscribe to my newsletter. Make sure to follow Lacreasha on all her social media accounts. You won't be disappointed by the content that she's releasing out there consistently. So sit back and enjoy this episode. So Lacreasha, thank you so much for your time. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Okay. My name is Lacresha Berry. I am a educator, performer, writer, stylist, fashionista thing.
You do a lot.
All of that. And I have been in New York City for the past 14 years. I moved here to go to grad school at NYU, and I've been here ever since. And yeah, I'm from Kentucky originally.
Yeah.
And I lived there for a majority of my life, and my parents were born and raised in Cleveland, and then we moved to Kentucky when I was a young girl, and then I was like, I'm out of here because y'all are slow or whatever. No, not slow, but I wanted a different pace. I was ready to move on, so I just moved to New York 2003, and then I've been here and kind of making my mark since then.
Nice. Awesome. That's a great introduction. And, you know, I think the main reason why I got you on here is not only because you're a cool person, you've always been a helpful person, but because I got to watch you perform live. And what stuck out to me is you have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You have a lot of energy, but not only do you have a lot of energy, but you're able to maintain that energy. Because when I saw you do Harriet Tubman, right, what stuck out to me is your performance, right? Not only did you have a great story, but you were also able to maintain that energy and keep the whole crowd entertained. So why don't you tell everybody what Harriet Tubman is and what type of story it is and let them know what it is.
So Harriet Tubman is my social media name just because I don't want anybody to, we had some issues with the logo but the actual name of the show is called just Tubman, and Tubman is a one-woman show, and it came into my mind. I had this concept of iconic basketball figure that everybody knows, whose shoes that we wear, whose name we recognize, and we can list off stats and stats and stats about that particular basketball player.
Right.
I just thought maybe we can reappropriate an image that's so popular, and maybe we can talk about Harriet Tubman in the same way as we talk about this player, this basketball player. So I had it in my head for a while, and I was like, what if we had Harriet Tubman, like looking like, she's holding a candle in the air,
Yeah, like
and we can
Jordan.
and we can call her Air Tubman. Only because she's done more for us than I would say a lot of the people that we look up to in sports and
Absolutely.
entertainment and other things. I feel like she really put her foot down in making sure that we were all free mentally and physically, and she did her best. And she was very active. She was a very active woman, and so a lot of times we often picture Harriet Tubman as a woman who's like older and debilitated and just ready to die, just older.
Hmm.
But if she was walking back and forth from the south to the north, and she experienced heartbreak with her first husband, and she was a spy for the Civil War, I'm pretty sure she had to be healthy and active. So
Absolutely.
um a lot of those ideas I wanted to kind of tackle in Tubman, like have a newer and nuanced, more complex more complex idea and narrative of Harriet in a way that we hadn't seen before. So I took that idea of freshness and being modern. And I took that and I said, well, I'm also a teacher. And so I wonder if Harriet has ever been in my classroom before. And what I mean by that is, I wonder if there was a freedom fighter or a leader or outspoken, rebellious natured young woman in my class who I just said, sit down, be quiet, shut up, listen to me. Um, and I wouldn't recognize the power in her. So I created a story out of this young woman who is facing expulsion because of her just being a black girl with critical thinking skills. Oftentimes, there's a book I read called Push Out by Monique W. Morris, and it talks about the disparity between black boys and black girls, white girls and black girls, and black boys and white boys in school. And of course, black boys are, and I fight for all children, all black children, and children of color first, because that's who I am. And that's what I've been doing for 15 years or whatever. But what I will say is that black boys and white boys, they get suspended, and black boys are disproportionate
Hmm.
to white boys, but the disparity between white girls and black girls is
The
much
highest.
higher,
Then the
much
black boys and white
than
boys.
the black boys and the white
Okay.
boys. So for me, I felt like that also needs to be talked about, because it's not really talked about. And often the things that we love so much about Harriet Tubman, when it comes into a modern package as a woman, we kind of push away and say she's too something, too aggressive, too now I've been told this too. So I kind of I'm putting my story in it. I'm putting the idea of Harriet Tubman as an icon, and I'm also bringing to light the expulsion and suspension rates inside of high schools and middle
Yeah.
schools all across the country, but
Yeah.
especially in bigger cities and metropolises.
So we kind of know how you got the idea. It didn't strike you one day, but it was based off your experiences.
hmm
But how long have you been working on Tubman?
Yeah, so the idea, I think I might have even talked to you about it one time. It was like I was up writing,
Hmm.
and there was an idea that came to my mind. Like somebody on Facebook was like, "Yo, what would Harriet do in times like this? What would Harriet do?" And I was like, "What would she do? What would she say? What would she think?" So this was around like mid 2015, because I was already in the middle of my other one woman show, and I was like, okay, I don't know why this is coming to me right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and write it down. And that's when the first monologue came out. So the first monologue came out around like October of 2015, and then it just stayed there for a while. It just, because I was already working on Brown Girl Bluegrass, and I was making sure Brown Girl Bluegrass was good,
Hmm.
and I didn't want my brain to be extra fried, but because of my personality and me juggling things all the time, I just feel like it's just naturally what I do. Is like I have to have 23 things burning on the fire in order for my life to feel balanced.
Uh huh.
But she came in October 2015, and then I didn't finish it until like December of 2015. No. I didn't finish it until, yeah. I didn't finish it until almost a year later. I didn't finish the
Wow.
whole show until a year later. So I had songs. I had 3 songs that I wrote after the monologue,
Hmm.
and I had the monologue, and I had nothing else. So I got booked to do Tubman in September of 2016 before it was done.
That must have been stressful.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Because of I go back to Kentucky to perform my shows, and so it was such a big success every time I go back. They were like, well, we're hiring you for your next new show. And I was like, okay. So this is September. I was like, no big deal. I'll have it done by, October, November, whatever. Yeah, I wasn't done until almost a month before I had to perform it.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
it was like January 2017 or like at the very end of 2016 where I finished it.
mhm.
So it took me a year to just write it because of all the stuff that kind of I allowed to like challenge me.
Yeah.
And so I put it further away down my to-do list. And so then I was like, oh, I'm performing February 17th and 18th. Ooh, I
Yeah.
need to get it
You
together.
gotta
And
get together.
so
Yeah. You don't use any notes, obviously, when
no,
you're
no, no,
performing.
no, no, no.
You, it just,
I have to memorize, period. In order for me to act and perform in a way that's professional, I have to memorize or it's not going to be.
and this is because if you haven't memorized, you're a lot more believable when you act. Is that why?
Yeah, also too, as an actress, you're taught to memorize only because you can delve more into the character when you're off book. Off book basically means memorized. So
Okay.
when you're off book or when you're memorized, you can get more into the context and the inner monologue of a character if you memorize it. And
Okay.
so same thing with poetry, same thing with, a speech or anything else. Once you have once you have your memory down and your words inside of your body, you just own it more. And so therefore, again, like you said, it's believable, and you have context,
Hmm.
and there's reasons why, somebody walks to the left as opposed to the right. It's just those are all things that go along with preparing to present a show.
Yeah, and it's that's what I mean. A lot of things stuck out to me. How you memorize everything, how it was so believable. But I want to touch on a couple of topics. You spoke about memorizing and performing.
Mm.
Tell us how you memorize so much information.
Yeah, so I went to school for theater. So I went to University of Kentucky. I graduated in 2003. And throughout that time, I have a BA in theater. So I learned how to do a lot of stuff in theater. BA basically just is like a bachelor's of arts in everything theater related. You can also get a BFA, which is a bachelor's of fine arts, and I can get a BFA in acting.
Okay.
But it was too specific for me. I kind of wanted to do everything. So I did costume design, I did stage design, I did sound design. I was a stage manager. I acted in 2 shows. I wrote shows. I
Mhm.
performed a lot. And so as a theater major, we had to, no matter what your emphasis was, we had to take classes that would help us be better actors, be better designers, be better production assistants, to be
Right.
better managers. We had all of those classes. Be better literary analyzers, if you will.
Everything. Yeah.
All that stuff. It's kind of like English, but on its feet, like an English degree, but acting out the books that you read.
Yeah.
And so in my acting classes, so acting, I took 3 acting classes: acting 1, acting 2, acting 3. And all those classes, we were taught memorization techniques. So there's a few of them that I do for me that works. The first one that I do is I talk it out. Like I see the script and I take my memo on my phone, on my iPhone, and I just talk my parts into
Mhm.
my phone.
Yeah.
Because I learn I learn mnemonically, and basically that means, I put songs or like chants so I can remember things.
Okay.
And I made chants and songs for my kids. Oftentimes when I hear it, sonically, it's easier for me to comprehend and
Oh,
to get
because you
down.
connected to like a rhythm or rhyme.
Yeah, I connect it to music. So for me, I can learn a song in like
Quick.
songs. Music to me is above everything else. So for me, if I can translate the words like music or to a rhythm, that's easier. So that's one way.
Okay.
Another way, as far as just reading comprehension, is taking the script and like dividing it into many parts. So for instance, you can take a script and say, this is part 1, this is part 2, and part 3. So my script is already part 1, part 2, and part 3. So part 1 is freedom. Part 2 is flight. Part 3 is freedom, flight, and then there's no freedom, run, and then flight.
Yeah.
So I split them up for my memorization anyway, but then that's the way the story takes place is freedom, and then you run for it, and then you fly.
Oh, so
you're off.
Got you.
So
Really organize
freedom
it.
is the so I organize it that way. But then so I can say, I'm going to memorize all of freedom or part 1. I'm going to memorize all of run, which is part 2. I'm going to memorize all of part 3, which is flight. So I do it like that. And then let's say freedom part 1 is 10 pages. I don't know. I can sit here and memorize 10 pages. But what I can do is I can take a monologue or 2 pages and I'll split it up literally. I'll take a pencil and I'll say, okay, every 8 or 9 lines, horizontal line, make that segment 1.
Okay.
And then horizontal line again, segment 2. So then I'll say, I've learned segment 1. Now let me learn segment 2. Now let's see if I really know it. And I go back and I remember, and I go back and say segment 1 and segment 2. Then I do that over and over again until I get through part 1. And then I do it again for part 2. And then I do it again for part 3. And I have it memorized.
Nice.
The third part of that, to test myself, is to have somebody have the script in front of them, and then I say the words. And they go back and forth between the parts that I want to memorize. And yeah, they go back and forth between the person I'm talking to and then who I am.
To make sure you have it.
To make sure that I have it. And then I think that's pretty much it. I mean, just really for me, talking it out a lot.
Yeah.
Helps. Shower, running.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Sometimes people think I'm crazy because I'm talking to myself as I'm walking to the train or on the train, or, I get in a room and I just focus. And oftentimes I can't focus if I'm not in the right physical state of mind.
Yeah.
So mental state of mind is one thing, but physical state of mind is another. So those are my memorization techniques that I've learned and I've picked up and have been successful.
Yeah, those are great memorizing techniques, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to use them now, how you really break things down. Another thing I've noticed about your performance is you really sell it, right? It's a really emotional thing, especially like the hardships that the main character goes through. How do you get into character?
So in acting classes, again, they teach you method acting, where you take a moment where you have felt the most vulnerable and you just kind of channel that as you're in the moment of the character. So, if my character is feeling loss or pain or anxiety or anger or depression, the goal is to make it believable and to just be on stage. So I think about the times where I might have felt those things and I channel it, but it takes practice. So a lot of times in practice, you're breaking down, you're crying because you're literally thinking of the moments where those things have happened, and you're recreating them over and over again to make sure that you can relate to Tubman, or in this case, Araminta, or in this case, the teachers that I turn into on stage as well. And a lot of times, I was a full-time teacher for 10 years. And so a lot of these memories and personalities are etched in my brain. Like I can't forget them because a lot of them were disrespectful and toxic situations. So it's hard to forget those things.
The principal.
Yeah. So it's hard to forget those things. So I just try to use them when I need them and not to dwell on them, because you can also get like very sad if you focus on the things that have happened to you. But if you can channel them, turn them on and turn them off,
then that's where you get that's how you sell it.
That's how you sell it.
Yeah, that's okay. So you use whatever kind of unfortunate life experiences you had.
Yeah.
Don't forget them, but you transmute them to this character.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of emotion in Tubman, and I guess I want to get more into the story right now.
Yeah.
The main character, what's her name again?
Araminta.
So what's the significance of the name Araminta?
So Araminta is Harriet Tubman's her birth name. So Araminta Ross is Harriet Tubman's birth name. She was born Araminta Ross in Delaware in it's said to believe 1822, something like that. And so they called her, she was a sickly child. She got hit in the head as a teenager because she didn't want to lie on a slave that might have been running away. And so his master asked her, were you trying to help or did you try to escape? And she wouldn't
She ain't
budge.
snitch, son.
Yeah, she wouldn't budge, whatever. And so he threw a metal weight at her head, and from there she suffered epileptic seizures and dizzy spells and blackouts.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so she was pretty sickly, and she wasn't technically, this is the time of enslavement of people, of African people. And so during that time, she was of low economic value, so to speak, because of her
Because she was,
sickliness.
yeah.
Because she was sickly and she couldn't really work as much as everybody else. And she was very small. So she was a woman of she was 5 feet tall, period. Like if there was a statue of her in her national park in Maryland, and I'm like 5 inches taller than her. Like she's very
I didn't
little.
know. Yeah, I didn't know she's that short.
She's
Yeah.
very little. And so they called her Minty or Little Minty. And so, got it?
I got you.
Okay, you got me now.
I got you.
And so
You're always like 10 steps ahead.
yeah. And so they called her Minty. And so eventually, so she was raised by a woman. Well, her mother was Mama Rit, and it's said to believe that Rit is a nickname of Harriet Rit.
Okay.
And so because her mother was such a strong influence in her life, and she fought to keep the family together, like Mama Rit in my show, Harriet renamed herself Harriet. Araminta renamed herself Harriet after her mother, Mama Rit.
Got you. Okay.
And so then Tubman comes from, because her mom was Rit, Mama Rit Ross and John Ross. Those are her parents. Her husband, John Tubman, she married him, and she was married to him, and her name was Harriet Tubman. That was her first husband.
Okay.
And then her first husband was like, I'm good on the freedom thing. I'll stay here. I got a new boo. You go ahead and go on. And so then she got remarried to a guy who's 28 years younger than her.
Oh, so she was okay.
She was getting her groove back.
She was getting her groove back. Basically, all of this, obviously you meshed your experience with the story of Harriet Tubman. So you've had to do a lot of research into her.
Yes.
And did you read the books on her, biographies on her?
Yeah. So there is a few. So I did a handful of online research, of course. You can go to biography.com, history.com. They have a lot of great biographies on that. But then I was like, well, what do their bibliographies say? So I went back into the history.com and bio.com's bibliographies and their indexes and their references. And I was like, So there's a book. It's called Bound for the Promised Land. And it talks about the nuance and the sophistication of Harriet's life and how there's 2 books. There was one that was written in 1800s that really didn't paint her very well. That kind of like degraded her in its speech. And then there's a new book called Bound for the Promised Land. And it talks about, the heartbroken Harriet. It talks about the ingenuity of Black folks. It talks about, even though she wasn't educated in the formal sense, that she had critical thinking skills. She had spatial awareness. She knew how to connect with God and religion. These are all the things that she had without
formal
technically
school.
Graduating and getting a bachelor's degree. So I think that it had, that book led with more empathy, and it wanted us to feel like be in her shoes. And so I think that book helped me a lot to understand her person.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you have to do a lot. I think creativity comes from really harvesting your brain with all this information. Because if you have more information in there about different topics, then eventually like your intuition will tell you where to go. And obviously you knew a tremendous amount about her, and that's where you got all these different ideas.
And I was learning as I went.
Yeah.
So all I knew is that I wanted to talk about Harriet, and this was way before any of the conversations around $20 bill. I wanted to talk about her. I started with a small thing, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then next thing I know, I'm over here like, and by the way, did you know? And then it ends up being this large pool of information that I can pull from to get more into my characters as well.
Nice. Going back to when she was struck in the head as a child, you said a pretty dope rhyme about this, because you be dropping bars too.
Bars, busy.
You be dropping. Could you tell us what that rhyme is?
Freedom over everything. So freedom over everything is So again, like I told you earlier, that my show is in 3 parts. So Freedom is the first part, so there's a song attached to it. Run is the second part, and there's a song attached to it. And then um, Flight is the third part, and there's a song attached to it. So how I did in my mind is music always comes first. So those music attached to certain parts of the story. So Freedom Over Everything, I wasn't planning on rapping, but it just came to me.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it just came to me, and I was like, I think I should rap it. And then plus, I was trying to reach the young people. I was trying to reach
Hmm.
my high school kids. I was trying to reach my middle school kids. And
What's the rap?
oh, you want me to?
I want you to say
You
the
want me
rap.
to say it
I
right
want you
now?
to drop the bar
Okay.
real quick.
So goes. Up from slavery, black girl, magic, no mystery. Brick to the head, straight visions be. Put me in a field and I fall asleep. Up in my consciousness, seeing God and happiness. These chains ain't meant for me. No master slave, no nigga I be. Queen Harriet, with these stars I got, don't you ever forget. Passed from the south to the north. 19 times I went back and
Uh,
forth to save my family. My brothers tried to discourage me, but Mama Rit lives inside of me. Mama Rit lives inside of me.
nice,
Freedom over.
nice. That's so. What I find fascinating about it is how you took her story when she was
Mhm.
struck over the head,
Mhm.
and then you like really made it into a rhyme. And I remember I was writing about this in our first interview,
Mhm.
and I think it's really genius how you're gonna see how I write it down, but how you use her story and then you really like broke it down into a rap, into a rhyme.
Mhm.
Because your show is great because it teaches us about this woman who's like so critical to us in
Mhm.
this day and age.
Mhm.
And like I had no idea that all that stuff happened to her. I had no idea that she went through all this to
Mhm.
like help us stand here, do this
Mhm.
interview as we're doing now.
Mhm.
So that's why I find your show really well. Now, another big component of your show is how you do it all by yourself.
Mhm.
And when you're doing it, I think your show's about an hour. Hey, brother.
Yeah, a little
About
less.
an hour.
Yeah.
But throughout that hour, your energy does not die down.
Mhm.
And I think amongst all the things that are impressive about it, that's
Mhm.
probably the one that stands out to me more. Because I'm a fitness buff. I always like to see like
Yes.
these types of
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
So, how do you maintain your energy for so long?
So it's strategic, and also just a normal part of my life. So I think that's important to say. It
Yeah.
just didn't come overnight. I've been doing it for a while, so I know what it takes to maintain stamina on the stage. So for me, what I do to maintain my breath control is cardio.
Yeah.
Cardio is a big part. I hate it though. Like I don't like the treadmill or none of that. So I try to
Yeah.
run outside because I think it just gives me a. I like walking and running outside because it just gives me scenery and perspective
Much
and just
better than
air
a
and
treadmill.
yeah, it's just treadmill. But what I like to do oftentimes when I'm running is, especially if I'm exerting myself, if I can still sing when I'm exerting myself. So it makes me focus on my breathing more if I'm singing as I'm running. And basically, that's kind of like what I'm doing on stage is that I have to balance my diaphragm as I'm moving so much because I'm very physical when it comes to performing. I'm not just standing there like,
No, you're
I'm
doing a
like
lot.
in it and over
You're
and
doing a
all this stuff.
lot.
And so I think cardio does that for me. So oftentimes before a show, I might do push-ups, jumping jacks, some squats backstage, touching on my toes, stretching,
Yeah.
and then I'm trying to get my breath up so I can sound like I'm a lot of it is manipulation too. Like you make people think that you're more energetic than what you really are because you could be tired. But what happens is 5 or 10 minutes before the show, you might warm up and you might do a lot of cardio and you might throw punches at shadow boxing over and
Yeah.
over and over and over again so you can get you real hyped up. And it feels like you are like lit,
Uh-huh.
but it's only because your warm up was like focused on warming up all your limbs and it has to be very, very physical.
Perfect.
So that's that. And so I sing while I run. I sing
That's a great strategy.
walking. And I also think too, just, for me, exercising, whether I lose weight or not, for me, exercising is about being able to handle my body in times of stress. And so when stress comes, how will I be able to maneuver and manipulate my body in a way where I'm not letting that overwhelm me?
Sure.
So, sleeping is a part of the physical energy, making sure I'm drinking enough water, that I'm hydrated, um, doing cardio, lifting weights, like picking heavy stuff up and putting it down.
Hmm.
And also too, just uh, Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that's
no,
pretty much the
you
the
take care of your body.
yeah, and and also I think we talked about this too before. Is that I think eating the right foods also gives you the energy that you need as well. So before a show, I'll only eat raw fruits
And
the
what's
whole entire day.
and what's just so people understand the difference? Like, what exactly is raw?
Yeah, nothing cooked at all.
Okay.
Nothing cooked. So if I have a banana, it's like straight off the vine, or straight off the
Mhm.
tree.
Yeah.
It's like the banana. I eat it. I don't do nothing to it. I don't manipulate it. I just eat it. Um, Pineapples are good because it kills the mucus off your throat.
Oh,
So I eat
interesting.
pineapples, bananas, mangoes, like sweet fruits, that add like moisture to my body as well. Yeah, mango, avocado is good for like coating and soothing of your throat. And it adds good fat to you as well. And also too, if you gargle like olive oil, it makes your throat
I've heard
have
about that
slip,
also.
as well. But if you're trying to get rid of mucus, apple cider vinegar drink, like just taking like a little teaspoon or a tablespoon apple cider vinegar and 8 ounces of water, or it depends on how strong you want it. That can
Right.
also be something to help cleanse and to energize your body. So for me, I've learned the hard way. I've learned the hard way where I was doing grains and I was
Hmm.
eating lots of fat, or I was mad hungry, so I didn't care.
Uh-huh.
And then my voice showed it when I was on stage, and my energy showed it when I was on stage. And I was like, I can't keep doing this no more. Especially if I'm keeping getting booked and booked and booked, and
It's
I'm doing
more.
shows like back to back almost, like
Mhm.
this week and then the next month, or then the 2 weeks, and then it just keeps going. And then I also have to teach in the middle of all of that. So
Your
I was
body,
like,
but you really gotta.
nah, tea, water, raw fruits. And I was doing veggies. The only veggies that I can think I can really do without it bothering me is celery,
Okay.
because I feel like the other ones, I can't. Tomatoes are too spicy to eat before you.
They
It
are.
messes with
Yeah,
your vocal cords. Just plain tomatoes because they have a lot of acid. Um,
they do.
they have a lot of acid, and cucumbers are good because they're pretty balancing. It just depends on what it is, but like no dressing, no hummus, no. If anything, I would do like an almond milk or a coconut milk inside of a smoothie that I would have.
Right.
But other than that, I have to be super strict when it comes to performing.
Yeah,
And
because
then
you're.
after I'm done, I'm like, where the French fries at? But it's only after I've been fasting. Sometimes, if I have a show on Friday, I gotta fast. I gotta start fasting on Monday
For your next
for
performance.
for that Friday performance.
Got you. And these are all the tips that I wanted to get because
Mm-hmm.
these are the small things where, yeah, you could memorize your script, you could have the place booked, you could have
Right.
everything to say, but if you don't perform, if your body is not up to par with what you're trying to do, then that really destroys this whole big project that you wanted
Yeah,
to
what's the
work on.
point of it?
Yeah,
If you can't sustain your energy, and then you also want to keep getting booked. So if you want to keep getting booked, you got to reproduce the same exact energy every time on
because that's what they
stage.
want. That's why they booked you.
That's why they're here. So I really learned this in San Diego. I was in San Diego and I did 5 shows back to back,
Back
every
to
single
back.
day at different times. Not back to back, but like every day I did a show
Okay,
for
so
5 days.
wow. Okay,
So it was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wednesday was at 10:30, but it was San Diego time, so it was 1:30 here. So my body was already going, ooh,
Who
it's
I
late
don't
night
know.
already, but it was 10:30 there. And so that whole entire, and it was killing me, but that whole entire week I had to do nothing but but it was basically a banana heaven. Like all I ate was pretty much bananas and like
Yeah,
pineapples. That's I mean, that was it. And so I was able to maintain that energy for 5 shows straight. And
did you crash afterwards?
I crashed and I had a huge meal after
Yeah,
my very last show.
you
Like a
needed it.
huge one. Like I went to PF Chang's and I had like a nice curry tofu
Yeah.
something with rice, and I was like, oh my gosh. But then after that I was like, okay, I'm over it. I'm done. And
'Cause that's
sometimes I go for it and I eat a bigger meal. But a lot of times my body mostly craves raw food anyway, and I should listen to it more often. But especially during performance week.
That's right, because it's like really intensive, and I think
Mhm.
people underplay because not only do you have to deal with actually performing, but like the nerves,
Mhm.
they really spike your like your nervous
Yeah,
system,
and
and
again,
it
that's why you work out. That's why you eat right, because your body
prepare
should
yourself
be able
for
to
the
handle
nerves.
the stress.
I like how you
So
put that right.
like
Yeah,
so, if I step out on stage and if I'm not eating right, if I didn't sleep, if I'm dry, I don't have enough water, I'm not hydrated, um, and I didn't exercise, I'm going to feel it and you're going to feel it. The
Yeah.
energy is going to be a lot lower. Now, mind you, my energy's like this because if you met my mother, then you understand. You're like, oh, okay. And you met my grandfather, that's where she gets it from. However, you have to take care of that energy. You can't just be all willy-nilly with it because it's powerful. And so because it's a powerful energy, and I know that I have powerful energy, and I embrace it now. I used to think I was like something was wrong with me, but you know what? I embrace it. This is my powerful energy. I walk into a room and I'm like the loudest one in it. I'm the biggest one in it, and it's fine. It's fine only because now I know how to channel it. Now I know how to take care of it, and I can use that to make money, to monetize. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
to monetize it, and that's what you certainly are doing, protecting energy. Okay, so Tubman, it wasn't an overnight thing. You've been developing it for several years now. Did there ever come a time where you wanted to quit? Even your whole career as a performing
Yes,
artist.
of course. I mean, like, if anybody says that they never wanted to quit as a liar. I feel like, I mean, they could. I mean, like, listen, life could have been like going great for somebody or whatever, but yeah, like when I look at my bank account or I look at things and I go, oh my gosh, why did I quit full time teaching? Like, I need, because August is kind of a dry month for teaching artists or for performers or whatever, because, we're waiting, especially if you perform for schools and universities and colleges and things like that. It's kind of like, all right, just waiting.
Gotta get back there.
Okay, all right. And so you got to figure out how to balance it all because it's like, why did I choose this? Why did I do this? And then when you do a show and somebody's like, oh my gosh, I cried. Oh my gosh, standing ovation. Oh, my students need to see this, or my sister, or I was expelled, or I was suspended. I was kicked out of school. I got pregnant and blah, 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 blah. I mean, a lot of this came after the show. So for me, I feel like that's when it's worth it.
It's all worth it.
But oftentimes I feel alone because these ideas are in my head. And when I tell people about it, they're like, oh, okay, that's just, you and you doing your thing. As opposed to like, how are you? Like, I was reading this list, I'm all into lists and things like that. But I was reading this list about how to like love an artist or how to really appreciate an artist as a friend, as a person that you're with. And I just feel like it's difficult. It really is difficult. And
I agree.
if you can't be not weak, but
You can't be weak-minded.
I don't want to be demeaning or degrading to anybody who might feel weak, but it's not for the uh um faint heart.
Okay,
It's not
that's
for
a nice way of
faint-hearted.
putting it. Yeah, you need grit for what
You need
what you're doing.
perseverance and grit, and to be an overnight success, you have to work for like 10 years.
I like how you put
You
that.
know what I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah,
like a floating quote around. Because I'm older than people. I'm not saying that I'm old, but I'm older than what I thought I'd be doing at this time because of all of the BS that you plant inside your brain that says this is what a woman should be at a certain age or whatever.
yeah.
And so that plays with you, right? Also, you're in a male dominated world, so that kind of plays with you. You don't focus on it, but it plays with you. Like there's a guy, I could be doing the same exact thing that a guy does, and then I'm like, well, I'm doing that, and I don't have the visibility. And then if I get the visibility, it's because of another woman, but then she doesn't have the same visibility as the guy. So it just becomes this cycle,
It's a
and
lot, right?
you can get in a state of pity. And I found myself just like, I can't focus on this. Oh my gosh, I can't. This could be me, and I can't focus on that. But yes, there are plenty of times where I wanted to give up, quit. I've cried. I've been sad. Um, and all of those things are real, and they motivate me to do more and to write more. But at the same time, it's just like I really want this for myself, and I try to give this to other people. Is empathy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, especially when you're dealing with history and you're dealing with Tubman. You could just say she was a badass woman. She was a badass.
and
You
leave it at
could,
that.
but that's not leading with empathy. Leading with empathy is like, what does she go through? Does she deal with insecurities? Does she deal with doubts? Was she heartbroken? Like she loved a man that like left her for another woman because he didn't want to escape slavery. So to me, that's heavy. That's very heavy. And we can't just say, oh, she's strong. Oh, she's strong and she got it all together. Like, no,
She
she
struggled.
struggled.
She
She
struggled.
struggled. And I think we put Harriet Tubman and others on these very high pedestals, right? and we could never attain to their level of heroism. And for me, Tubman is about seeing Harriet Tubman in a way that's real, authentic, accurate, and nuanced,
Wow.
and not just she's a strong black woman, because we've heard that narrative before, and a lot of us just we breaking down now, like we tired of keeping up with the tired of keeping up with I'm strong, so I'm gonna get through this, as opposed to no, right now I'm having a hard time and I need a moment, and
So how do you take these moments when you feel lonely, when you feel
yeah, there's a very inspiring group of young women called Girl Trek.
girl trek?
Mm-hmm.
TREK?
TREK.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing this before I actually saw their TED Talk, but their TED Talk is very inspiring. So Girls Trek, founded by two ladies. I don't know their names. I have it in my mind, but we can figure it out later. One of the things that was said on their TED Talk is when black women walk, things change. And basically, Harriet Tubman was the epicenter of their mission statement. And so for me, I'm like, yeah. So I just walk,
You just walk.
go somewhere, walk, put some music on, go somewhere and walk.
And
I don't know where. Maybe to the mall. Maybe to a park, maybe to Champs and have some pancakes. I don't know. It just depends, but I get out of my house.
you get out your house. You
I
don't
get
you
out.
don't like stay at home, kind of getting your feelings, but you get out.
Yeah, and also too, I could binge watch like Netflix and be like, "Oh, that's so nice," and I can do that as well. I've done that a few times or whatever.
I feel like that's the dangerous part of I guess for
Hmm.
I want to say what we're doing,
Mhm.
which is we're not doing because what you're doing depends so much on the decisions you're making.
Mhm.
Right? You had to write the script, you have to go out there,
Yeah.
you had to market it. You're doing all
Mhm.
these things, nobody's telling you what to do.
Hmm.
But this is why I love what you're doing.
Hmm.
Right? I love what you're doing because you're going through all these things that many people are you're going through all these things that a lot of people are going through, but we feel lonely because it's like being lonely is something that we all experience, right? And it's something that Harriet Tubman experienced just as well. And I think we get lost in all these narratives of these people being great, like they're like superhuman. They don't experience pain. They don't experience struggle. But these people experience all these things that we experience. So this is why I love what you're doing, because you're taking the emotions that we have, that we all experience, that feel fucking unsurmountable sometimes, that
Mhm.
feel like they're gonna crush us,
Mhm.
and you're showing that other people are like
Debilitating even.
debilitate. I know exactly how you feel, and you're showing how Harriet Tubman went through the same thing, went through the similar things, and you're playing it out right now. So
Mhm.
that's why I feel like no matter how sad you feel, no matter how bad you may feel while you're trying to build this, at the end of the day, it's like you're building something that nobody else can build but you.
Mhm.
Nobody, if you don't do it, we're not gonna get this.
Mhm.
Like if I'm telling you, Barry, if you don't do this, we're not gonna get your gift, and we're not gonna see the stories that you can paint out there. So I hope that you think about that when you're going through what you're doing, because I go through the same thing where
Mhm.
you working on these things, you feel lonely as hell. It feels like you're
And you
going
isolate
nowhere.
yourself from people because you have to get it done. So it's like
Yeah,
a lot of times
yeah.
it's not even like isolating because uh, I feel sad. It's isolating because I got to write this script,
Yes.
and I can't finish this script if I'm around like 25 people trying to get my attention.
Yes, and I've told you this so many times
Mhm.
where sometimes I say, yo, I wish I could come out, but I gotta sit home and I gotta edit fucking 50 hours worth of video.
Mhm.
But if I don't do it, this thing will never get done.
It will never get done. And I also feel too, I got to give myself a break. So in all of that, in all of the stuff that I've been learning for the past almost 4 years, like just me being in this entrepreneurial existence,
Hmm.
is that I also have to give myself a damn break. Like
Yeah, you got
resting
to.
is also productive. So
Yes.
so I feel like, the grind and the hustle and all the things that we have glamorized in the world, like, early bird gets the worm, and don't sleep, no eat, hashtag.
Uh-huh.
I'm not about that life. I really am not about that life.
Yeah.
I'm really am not. And for me, I need to sleep in order to be productive. I need to eat right in order to be productive.
Sleep is huge.
Right. And so for me, I don't glamorize that, but also too, I want to be effective and efficient. So in order to be effective and efficient, I can't be around a lot of people when I'm not performing, but when I'm
Brainstorming,
creating,
writing. Yeah.
when I'm creating work and in the middle of editing and revising and like memorizing. Like when I was in Kentucky, I'm from Lexington, so I know a lot of people in Lexington. I mean, like I can hang and like,
You the mayor.
yeah, I can go to Kroger and be like, "What's up, Lacreasha?" I'll be like, "Oh, hey," because it's a small. It's not super small, but it's small enough.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
small enough.
Hmm.
And so uh, when I was there, I was like, I'm just gonna stay in this. Stay in. First of all, I needed to because I needed to memorize. The second, I'm gonna stay in this apartment, this Airbnb, this hotel room, and like not come out until all these words are inside of my body. And so if that means I'm gonna have to stay in my pajamas or like throw myself against this wall in this apartment building so I can get my movements down, then that's what I have to do. And I won't be able to talk to anybody until after 7 o'clock p.m.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So um or only come out when I have to make appearances. Only because you gotta preserve it. Like again, like I said before, you gotta preserve it. So
Yeah.
I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, but oftentimes you hear successful people, and what I mean by successful is they have visibility.
Hmm.
Their narrative now has visibility in a way that it didn't before. They have a platform
Right.
that is more visible. So, like for instance, Leslie Odom Jr. for Hamilton, talking about like his bank account and what it was looking like, and then he got the job, and then he won the Tony a year later. But it literally, he was on the precipice of the success that he wanted, but it just seemed overwhelming and
Yeah.
like I'm not ever gonna get there, And then when it finally happened, it was like wow, it came showering on him like big time, only
Fast.
because he was preparing for it this whole time. But when you're in the middle of it, you're in the middle of the storm.
It's
It's like you don't
it's
see none of that. You just see there's storm, 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 storm.
easy as
But
hell.
outside of it,
Yeah.
people are like, "That is beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh." And then you step out of it and you realize, "Oh dang, I was like, oh my gosh." But I'm inspired by listening to other people's stories, and I know that something big is already happened, and I'm just waiting for it to manifest. I know
Yes.
that. I feel it in my soul, especially in 2017 when I made affirmations to say I'm going to have 20 dates of Tubman, and they're actually going to
And
come
yes, and you got them
to
in.
light, and and I'll
Yeah.
be in by December. I just feel like it's just important to stay on the course and believe in yourself, and then also it helps when you have friends like you and other people that they check in and be like, "You good? All right, keep
Yeah.
going.
You got to
You
check in.
good? All right, good." I
Yeah.
went on a tangent, but that's
No, that this is the information I wanted. This is why I love speaking to people like you because we see your product, we see your show, but there's like so much stuff beneath it, and this is why I think everyone should really check your show out, you're gonna plug the hell out of it,
yeah,
whether you want
plug.
to or not. Okay, my final question for you is, how do you define success?
Success is a very broad term. Success for me is visibility. That's one. Being able to have a platform where I share narratives of important ancestors and being able to be visible while doing it so I can continue to tell the stories over and over again. That's sustainable. And also getting paid to tell those stories over and over again without struggle, financial struggle or emotional struggle. And also going to sleep at night with a clear conscience. I think that's success. Financial balance, um, visibility and platform,
Yeah,
and clear conscience. I
that's
think
perfect.
that's
That's
success to
that's a
me.
perfect answer.
Yeah.
I did say one final question, but I have one more.
Okay.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
20-year-old self had just recently uh, took a hiatus from college because of all of the naysayers in her ear, all of the doubt, all of the doubters, and people that projected their fears onto her. I would say, um, listen to your small, still voice inside your body, and your intuition is always your guide. And also, too, that your health is your biggest wealth. And if you focus on your health, that's going to help you do everything else.
Absolutely. I love that answer. Now, before we log off, I'm pretty sure people found this interview very, very helpful because I feel like
Hey.
every time I talk to you, I always grow a lot. And I'm not just saying that.
Hey.
But before we
He's
log
growing,
off, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, your social media accounts, your shows?
Sure.
Let them know where they can come get you.
Sure, great.
Don't be
So-
don't be modest too. Let them know.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you know who you're talking to, but I don't think I can ever be modest. So I'm on social media, so all over the place, all over, everywhere. My dog even has a social media account now. She got like almost 250 followers. Anyway,
Minty,
Minty,
which is a play on.
Araminta, yeah.
Yo,
And she's little and powerful, and she's super cute and like a lot of work, but she's great.
Yeah.
She's also therapy as well.
She's also
For
what?
sure, therapy, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure. Like gives me purpose in production. Like I'm very much more productive with her around because she wakes
Really?
me up at 7 o'clock every morning.
Oh.
That's a whole nother podcast. So I'm on Instagram, Berry, Facebook, Berry, Berry. Instagram, I'm Berry and Co, BerryAndCO. I'm on YouTube, Lacresha Berry. I do vlogs weekly, and I do like it could be a mixture of vegan music, style. So that's Berry and Co. And then my show, the One Woman Show, has Instagram, and it's Air Tubman, Tubman on Facebook, the same Air Tubman, on Twitter, the same Air Tubman. Berry and Co. on Twitter, Berry and Co. on Instagram, berryandcompanynyc.com. That's the website. So I'm sure we can list all of these out. But
there'll be.
I'm very present on social media.
And that's what you got to do. That's
present,
part
very
of the
present.
business side of.
I'm around. I've gotten a lot of gigs
because of social media.
Social media.
Nice. Yeah, that's what you have to leverage. It's like the best business platform of all time, literally.
Yes.
So if you want all this information, you can go to the show notes on the Berries page, and you'll have everything there, links to all the things that we mentioned, the books, the resources, her social media accounts. Make sure you go out and follow her because you won't be disappointed. And if you ever get a chance to watch her perform, please do, because you're going to be astonished by her creativity and her energy levels. So anyway, that's it for today, Barry. I really appreciate your time, especially for doing this again. Now we have better cameras and stuff like that. So I really hope you all enjoy this, and I will see y'all next time. Later.
Okay, everyone, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. I certainly did. I came out of it more inspired, more motivated, and I actually started to implement all the exercise things that she did, and I feel a lot more energized these days. So I really hope you got a lot from it. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and again, I really want to continue to do this. I'm going to do it no matter what, but it'll be a lot better if I get your insight from it. So on the comments below, if you're watching this on my website, on YouTube, on any platform, let me know what you think about this. How did you find Lacreasha's play? How did you learn from this episode? And again, make sure you subscribe, leave a message, and I'll speak to y'all next time. Thank you very much.